battle for Baghdad. U.S. troops continue to tighten their grip on Iraq's capital, while in the south, British armor barrels into Basra. Fog of war. More than a dozen Kurds fighting alongside U.S. Special Forces killed in an accidental bombing in northern Iraq. And a farewell tonight to an esteemed colleague, a father and a friend, our David Bloom.
For the first time in 5 days, this force is once again on the move.
He collapsed and died today in Iraq doing what he loved best, covering the big story.
This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting from Amman, Jordan.
Good evening from Amman, and tonight the world watches the battle for Baghdad, the Iraqi capital and the last stronghold of Saddam Hussein and his regime. American forces have all but closed off the sprawling city in the heart of Iraq, but the fight is far from over and the critical question remains: can Baghdad be conquered without street-to-street and house-to-house fighting? And by now, you may know that our correspondent David Bloom, ready to accompany the 3rd Infantry Division into the Baghdad fighting, died this morning, apparently of a pulmonary embolism. I'll have more about that sad news later, but first we're going to go to NBC's Jim Miklaszewski at the Pentagon. Jim?
Tom, the first American warplane loaded with U.S. Special Forces and equipment landed at the Baghdad airport today. And the U.S. is airlifting armed Iraqi exiles, freedom fighters, into southern Iraq as the noose tightens on the Iraqi regime. U.S. Marines battling Iraqi Republican Guards today on the outskirts of Baghdad. For the second day in a row, tanks from the Army's 3rd Infantry launched an armored raid into the city. The military calls them thunder runs, intended in part to rattle the enemy.
And to inflict severe damage on anyone that opposes the force that comes into Baghdad.
U.S. military officials predict American troops will soon have Iraqi forces inside Baghdad completely cut off, as the Army's 3rd Infantry circles up from the west and the Marines from the east. Both are to meet up north of Baghdad and should have the city totally surrounded within 24 hours. At that point, American military commanders say the Iraqis will have 2 choices: surrender or die.
To stop supporting a regime that does not deserve their loyalty, to surrender, to become part of the future free Iraq.
But the Iraqis showed reporters a burned-out U.S. tank in Baghdad today and claimed Iraqi forces have the Americans on the run.
We have destroyed 6 tanks and we have killed 50 of his soldiers.
Deputy Defense Secretary Paul Wolfowitz scoffed at the claim.
If it weren't a war and all the tragedy of war, you'd almost think this was a Saturday Night Live skit. He's really the minister of propaganda.
At the same time, U.S. military officials said again today they're almost certain Iraq's most notorious general, known as Chemical Ali, was killed in a U.S. airstrike in Basra 2 nights ago. But in northern Iraq, another friendly fire incident, when an American warplane attacked a convoy, killing 1 U.S. Special Forces soldier and 18 Kurdish fighters. But U.S. military officials deny that any U.S. forces attacked a convoy of Russian diplomats fleeing Baghdad today, saying it must have been Iraqi troops who staged the attack. Tom?
Thanks, NBC Jim Miklaszewski at the Pentagon tonight. In northern Iraq today, coalition forces advanced toward Mosul and toward securing the area's major oil fields. But the big story in the north today was the fog of war, that friendly fire attack in which U.S. air power bombed a convoy of Kurdish fighters and U.S. Special Forces. More on that story tonight from NBC's Tom Aspel, covering the Northern Front.
No, it's not. I can't find Cameron.
Disaster. An American airstrike 10 yards away from a convoy of U.S. Special Operations Forces and their Kurdish allies. A BBC TV crew traveling with them videotapes the carnage and the mayhem. Their reporter filing immediately by telephone.
It was an American plane, dropped the bomb right beside us. I saw it land. This is just a scene from hell here.
As the convoy burns, ammunition explodes in the fierce heat.
There's RPGs that are cooking on air.
The BBC crew search for each other. They can't find their translator.
Yeah, there's Cameron lying down on the grass.
The cameraman is injured. Reporter John Simpson's clothing is torn away in the blast. But their translator, a 25-year-old Kurdish man, bleeds to death before they can get him to a hospital. 18 of the Kurdish guerrillas were killed, more than 40 wounded. Central Command cannot yet say if any of the American Special Operations soldiers are among the casualties. Kurdish officials said their men were working with the Americans to direct tactical airstrikes onto Iraqi positions near the highway between the two Iraqi-held cities of Mosul and Kirkuk, bordering northern Iraq's oil fields.
At 12:30, two U.S. planes mistakenly bombed the friendly force.
It's been the deadliest friendly fire incident in the war so far. There'll be a careful investigation to see if the wrong coordinates were called for the airstrike, or if the convoy was mistaken for Iraqi irregulars in an area where the front line is still not clearly defined. Tom Aspel, NBC News, Sulaymaniyah, northern Iraq.
When British battle groups made their push into Basra today in the south, it was the largest assault on Iraq's second biggest city since the start of the war. Tonight, it looks as if the British are there to stay. A report from Tim Ewart of our British partner ITN on the battle for Basra.
The British tanks rolled out this morning, 2 weeks after laying siege to this city of 1 million people. From their positions on its outskirts, they rumbled through the city gates. Hundreds of tanks, armored vehicles, and fighting men of the Desert Rats. From the ground, they took out enemy positions. And from the air, they flew in reinforcements.
We had an IED, an improvised explosive device, thrown in over the wall, which took out quite a lot of the windows in the school building that we'd occupied.
Most of the resistance came from small arms fire, from radical militia dressed in civilian clothes. There seemed to be no cohesive fighting force here, and no sign of the feared Republican Guard. Soldiers of the Irish Guards were soon out of their warrior fighting vehicles and on the streets for the first time. The road behind them littered with the shells of burnt-out Iraqi tanks. This was meant to be a lightning raid, but now they're here to stay, and it does appear that some of the locals, at least, are happy to see them, knowing that help and the end of an oppressive regime is on its way. By early afternoon, and flanked by helicopter gunships, British Challenger tanks had shot their way close to the city centre. They're now fortifying their positions and clearing away the last pockets of resistance. Tonight, the British control most of Basra, but not all of it. They think any significant opposition has been crushed, but they can't be sure. This remains a dangerous place for the troops to be. Tim Ewart, ITV News, Basra.
For some U.S. troops, this Sunday was a time to slow down their march to Baghdad, to stay put, and to solidify coalition control. NBC's Dana Lewis is with the 101st Airborne in Karbala, southwest of the capital city.
In the heart of Karbala this morning, American Bradleys firing 25mm cannons. Soldiers frantically searching for the source of incoming fire. Only a few Iraqi units still trying to put up a fight against overwhelming firepower.
Gun! First we took a mortar round, now there's small arms fire in the area. Troops moving up the road. Helicopters now trying to search, see where the fire is coming from. Is it on a rooftop? Somebody in between buildings? Very difficult to find the source of fire in this environment.
Yesterday, a Bradley was destroyed here in fighting. Today, they take no chances when they find the source of fire. Platoon Sergeant David Wardlow says his Bradley has been shot at 16 times.
We're like hair of our teeth, skin of our teeth, basically getting by it.
Go, 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 go!
Soldiers from the 101st Airborne are sent to search for gunmen inside the buildings. Bravo Company Specialist Brandon Holzer says finding a sniper frustrating, dangerous.
It's just one man running around with one magazine.
And a box of bullets.
A box of bullets, and if he gets found, he drops the gun and runs, hides.
The Bravo Company patrol lasts for 6 grueling hours. Temperature near 100 degrees. People come out of their homes to wave and watch. And today, the U.S. Army and residents of Karbala work together to topple the last symbol here of Saddam's rule. Dana Lewis, NBC News, Karbala.
Now the sad news about David Bloom, our dashing and resourceful correspondent who has been reporting from the front lines, riding hard with his Bloommobile with the 3rd Infantry Division. We were all stunned to hear the news that David died apparently of a pulmonary embolism after complaining of leg pains and cramps for the past few days. His colleague, Bob Faw, tonight on the man who brought such light and energy to our lives, and we trust to yours as well.
Are the colors that we're seeing here. It is orange.
Even in the swirling sands of Iraq, David Bloom was a whirlwind.
These mechanics working on this Bradley engine,
whipping across the desert, sending back unforgettable images of the 3rd Infantry Division, ushering in a new era in combat coverage, letting us almost live the war.
There was a much larger firefight.
Yet, with all that enthusiasm, that energy, a 10-minute catnap would propel him for hours. David Bloom never lost sight of what truly matters.
He just found out a couple hours ago that his wife Erica had a baby about 2 weeks or so ago. So I'm going to give this headset to him and let him talk to his wife here.
A boy from the heartland, Edina, Minnesota. He didn't just bring war into America's living rooms, he also touched lives.
So I'm going to put on Sergeant Joe Todd first.
Said, I'm David Bloom, and your husband wants to talk to you. And I was so excited.
Almost overnight, Bloom rocketed to the top of his profession from a local television station in Miami in 1989, chasing looters after Hurricane Andrew.
Trying to hide your face? Are you embarrassed that you're doing this?
Starting with NBC News in 1993, he simply out-hustled most of the pack covering the O.J. Simpson murder trial, landing at the White House in 1997, often refusing to accept the official line.
I got into a lot of scraps with him at the White House podium, but at the end of the day, you go out and laugh and joke with him, and he was really a fun person to be around.
With a tender side he was not afraid to reveal after 9/11.
Well, Tom, this is a haunting, even demoralizing vantage point.
Only 39, he was a reporter's reporter, endlessly curious, precise, so tenacious he'd make a bulldog seem timid. From a hotbed on the Gaza Strip,
this is where Hamas's strength is greatest.
Where the former high school debate champ took on Yasser Arafat.
It accuses you of, and I'm quoting here, being directly involved in the planning and execution of terrorist attacks.
From the squalor of Haiti to sniper shootings around Washington, where his doggedness impressed even his competitors.
Are you saying it might be this vehicle or it might be that vehicle?
David Bloom wouldn't just cover major events, he'd own them.
You could try to chain him to his anchor desk and he'd break away. He wanted to be there.
Wanting to spend more time with the wife and 3 daughters he adored, in 2000 he began co-hosting Weekend Today, endearing himself with his boyish charm.
Let's make some cotton candy, because I know my kids are watching, and if we don't use this big machine, they'll be really disappointed.
The same puckish good humor he carried into the Iraqi desert.
Oh, what are you doing?
David Bloom, a rich life and career that was gung-ho, glorious, and all too short.
Life is pretty darn good.
Tonight, a reminder of the work of David Bloom over the last 2 weeks, when he moved north with the 3rd Infantry Division through sandstorms and firefights, light moments, and foreboding toward the capital of Baghdad. David tonight, in his own words.
This is the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Division. We're with the 2nd Brigade, the 315 Infantry. They were the first unit from this division to enter into southern Iraq last night. We got rockets coming in on us. Tom, we're under attack right now. The charred remains of Iraqi tanks litter the main roadway. Destroyed Iraqi armored personnel carriers smolder in tall grass near the riverbanks. The Americans continue to launch the MLRS rockets, the multiple launch rocket systems, which we've seen firing 30, 40, 50 times in the last several hours. It's blowing really hard. We're all wearing these. The wind has really picked up in the last half hour or so. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon here, and I'm going to break another one of these chem lights so that you can get a little bit better view of us. Fear also hangs in the air. There's time for prayer.
We're finished. May we accomplish our mission with a minimum of bloodshed.
Now Baghdad is within striking distance, just a few short miles away, as U.S. troops make their final push forward.
What would you say to people back home who say this is not going nearly as well as we thought that it would?
What about the fact that you guys are getting a lot of fire from these irregular militias using their kind of guerrilla-style tactics? Tell me what's going through your mind right now as you're thinking about it.
Just my family, my wife.
I have to tell you that sleeping in an M88 is not your luxury hotel by any means. It's little cramped quarters, but beggars can't be choosers.
Okay.
Boy, that'll make a difference.
Yeah, I look
great now.
I look so suave and debonair. I'm David Bloom with the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Division in South Central Iraq. Back to you.
When I recently told David off air to take care of himself and not to do anything dumb, he laughed and replied, "You mean anything dumber?" And then he laughed again. I'll be back later with some personal thoughts on my young, good friend. And John Seigenthaler will return in a moment with more of the day's news.
As victory in Iraq seems to be getting closer, the Bush administration is confronting questions and criticism about its vision for rebuilding Iraq, feeding its people, and establishing a new democratic regime. President Bush and Britain's Prime Minister Tony Blair will have their work cut out for them when they meet tomorrow in Belfast. Here's NBC's Rosalind Jordan.
With Saddam Hussein's control of Iraq slipping fast, the U.S. and Great Britain can't agree on who should be in charge once the war is over. The U.S. insists its Office of Reconstruction and Humanitarian Assistance, under the command of retired Army General Jay Garner, will run things, but only for a short time.
The important message to Iraqis and to everybody in that region is that we do not come as a new colonial power. We do not come as an army of occupation. We come as an army of liberation, and we want to see the Iraqis running their own affairs as soon as they can.
But even though British Prime Minister Tony Blair wants the United Nations to be involved right away, National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice says the UN's role has not been locked in. We want to discuss with the UN, and we want to discuss with the coalition partners the role that the UN may play where its expertise makes sense. But we want to do what's effective. This is not a matter of competence, it's a matter of what will be needed on the ground. With UN Secretary General Kofi Annan calling a Security Council meeting tomorrow to discuss Iraq, foreign policy expert Michael O'Hanlon says there's no evidence that a unifying figure will emerge in Iraq as Hamid Karzai did in Afghanistan.
We don't know yet if there's a Karzai because, of course, any Karzai who would have been outspoken before this point would have been killed by Saddam.
American plans to get out of Iraq sooner rather than later may already be running in trouble. The Deputy Defense Secretary says it could take at least 6 months to form a new Iraqi government, and General Garner has canceled what would have been his first press conference to talk about the U.S.-led transition. No reason given. Rosalind Jordan, NBC News, the White House.
There was an exuberant family reunion today at a U.S. military hospital in Germany. Private First Class Jessica Lynch, taken prisoner by the Iraqis and then rescued in a daring raid, had visits from her parents, 2 siblings, and a cousin today. Private Lynch had had several surgeries since being rescued. Doctors say her chances of a full recovery are excellent. Still ahead on NBC Nightly News, more from Tom Brokaw in Amman. And first, the growing danger from the mysterious SARS illness just across the U.S. border. News tonight about the frightening mystery illness known as SARS. Most of the attention is focused on Asia, but there was news today that the threat is growing much closer to home in Canada. NBC's chief science correspondent Robert Bazell is in Toronto tonight with details. Robert?
John, here in Toronto, health officials today announced the 9th death from SARS. So far, there have been 179 confirmed and suspected cases in this area.
Both of our speakers, and then we'll...
Ominously, health officials report today that some of the cases, especially older people, are not showing the usual fever, just difficulty breathing.
Various people get sick with a different range of symptoms.
That makes spotting new cases all the more difficult. In the Toronto area, most of the cases are not travelers from Asia, but people who came in contact with them, especially health workers. That is why 3,000 people are being asked to stay at home in voluntary quarantine.
The success of our strategy is directly linked to 100% in isolation.
In Hong Kong, one of the hardest hit cities, 2 more deaths today. And word that in China, the disease has spread to other big cities, including Shanghai and Beijing. So why hasn't there been a big outbreak in the U.S.? U.S. health officials say it's been mostly good luck to date. John?
Robert Bazell in Toronto tonight. Bob, thanks. In a moment, we'll go back to Tom Brokaw in Amman with a tribute to a colleague and friend.
I came here to cover the war for Baghdad, and on the plane over, I thought about the moment when I would meet up again with David Bloom, how I would kid him about all the airtime and the praise he was getting. Then when I arrived, the awful, crushing news. It helps some that all of you have gotten to know him better in the last 2 weeks, to know what made all of us so proud, that in his generation, there simply was no one better. And this was a perfect assignment for David Bloom because as a reporter, he was a warrior, fearless, hard-charging, always eager for the next difficult assignment. He'd arrive on a story, and within 24 hours, he'd have a notepad full of the secret cell phone numbers of the best sources. When he made mistakes, he'd own up. No excuses. His love of his life, his wife Melanie, and their 3 darling daughters, was so exuberant, it was contagious. And so this is hard. Our grief is great, because the whole is so large. And it's also a reminder to all of us of what other families and friends in this war are enduring as well. I'm Tom Brokaw in Amman. For all of us at NBC News, good night.